to do now. Tonight the stars are out, so let's make the town.
So welcome everyone. This is going to be our last online meetups for this year and our last meetup for December. So in case I forget later on, Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas to anyone that is celebrating. And I don't know how many of you are going to be on vacations, but I'm really looking forward. I have 2 weeks off and I have talked with plenty of customers that are already taking a period of vacations, which is well deserved this year. Now, we have prepared for you 2 great topics for today. One is how to engage between customers and partners to be successful, a win-win scenario. And the other session is going to be do it yourself with API-led with Alexa. You're going to discover how to actually do that. You will see the components of Alexa skills, Alexa Lambda functions. You will get some view into the SQL, MySQL Workbench, and some other technologies that I use for that demo. Now, before we start, thank you again for joining us. And remember, the feedback that you give for this session is very important. When you fill that survey, we know what you want to see, and we can prepare that for the next year. Now, with that said, we're going to do our typical introduction of 5 minutes. So first of all, remember the meetup leaders for these online meetups are Manik Magar and Suyo in Amer. You have Royston Lobo in APAC, and you have myself, Angel, here in EMEA. Moving on, keep in mind, remember that Mule 4 MCD, you can get a free certification if you complete the self-serve training. And if you have any doubts, you can use the help.mulesoft.com or leverage the help from Stack Overflow, which is especially useful when you think about data with a Mule runtime. Now, the guidelines for the session, as usual, pop your questions in the chat, and anyone in the community can try to answer, and the remaining questions will be asked in your behalf at the end of the session. All the recordings, all the sessions we do have the recordings in the VirtualMuleys YouTube channel. You will be able to see them there or in the meetups page, this event page. Again, your feedback is very important to us. So once you fill that survey, we will know what you want to see and we can prepare it for next year. Now, before we continue, let's see the announcements and updates that we have. The MuleSoft Hackathon winners, congratulations to our winners. So the first place was Live COVID-19 Symptom Check by Pat Wura, a solutions architect. You can find all the information there in the bottom. You can see the blogs.mulesoft.com. With that link, you will see all the winners. You can have access to the open source projects that they created, and you do have the video demos in case that you're interested in creating your own hackathon, organizing your own hackathon, and building above those assets. So congratulations as well to Darren Ingram for the second place and for Tirthankan Kundu for the third place with the chatting on phone and the web. Now, there's other winners for the 4th place to the 13th, and we want to thank you all for participating, and congratulations to all the winners that we had in the hackathon. Now, some updates, quick updates on things that are going on. Friends of Max is this video series that is less than 10 minutes videos that will explain you a specific topic. This one is in case that you have ever wondered how to work with Anypoint Community Manager. So if you do have the license, you can go to this video and see how Shashank will guide you. He's from the CSSA team back in America, and he will guide you in 10 minutes how to install Anypoint Community Manager and what are the best practices. Some more updates. There's the blog post that we talk about, to increase your data with productivity from your browser. You already know about this, most likely. Otherwise, you can always check any of the links I'm sharing today in the chat. I will pop it again. That is the introduction slide share, and you can get any of these links that we're seeing right now. You can just go into the deck and check them for yourself. Now, the next announcement, blog post from Gonzalo. How many VPCs do I need? It's a new blog post that covers how many VPCs do you really need? 1 is enough, 2 is enough, how much is best practices? What is the system that you're trying to put in place? So learn how to decide how many VPCs you should include in your network architecture. That is another blog post. I really recommend it. The news, these ones are coming from November 2020. In case you haven't seen it, it's all around connectors. There was a blog post as well around it, but these are all updates. Next one, and this one is really important for anyone that is looking for the Mules certified developer. There is a new initiative from the training team for 2 weeks. So the week of December 14 to 18, this week, and the next week, 21st to 25th, you will get a training, instructor-led trainings for free. This is for the Mule certified developer. So instead of going into the trainings.mulesoft.com and doing that self-serve training, you will have your free instructor-led session. This is an offer for special for December, and you can find the link there. This is really useful for anyone that is trying to really uplift their skills in a matter of a couple of days and to get that certification, the Mule certified developer. Okay, as we're coming to the Christmas period, just a quick reminder, many of you already know this process, but some, just in case you haven't seen it before, this is the recommended support process. It's very important that you see it in Christmas periods. It's this vacations periods. It's very important that you understand the support process as for the rest of the year, but especially now. So in case you haven't seen it before, go to this webpage, and here you will see all the basis for troubleshooting, all the guidelines for troubleshooting to understand when an issue is occurring, what to do, what is going on with your VPC connection, your VPN. There's plenty of suggestions there in the bottom of the article. And in the flowchart, you can understand how the MuleSoft process works. Okay, so quick announcement. At the end of this session, we will have again some courses that we're doing a contest. We will have 3 winners today as well. And the 2 options will be the Anypoint Platforms Operations Cloud Hub and the Anypoint Platform Development Data with 2.0 and Mule 4. We will have this session at the end of the of today's event. Now, for today, finally, how to engage customer partner engagements with Arno Brugman. Arno, sorry for stealing 8 minutes of your time. We're going to start as soon as possible. And before we do that, Arno, he has an incredible record. He's our key strategic advisor, and he's part of the Office of the CTO for MuleSoft. And I believe he has prepared once more proper introduction. So I will not add more into it, just mentioning that Arno is joining from the Netherlands. So with that, Arno, I will give it to you, and I will start answering the questions in the chat. Thank you again, Arno, for preparing the session, and let's thank you everyone else for joining today.
Cool. Thank you very much, Angel. I'll start sharing my screen.
Got it. I already stopped, so you should be able.
And you should be able to see.
We can hear you well, and we can see the screen.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Angel. So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining. We have prepared a specific deck that goes into how do customers engage with their partners, and specifically from a customer success point of view. If customer success engages with customers, they share certain knowledge, they share certain documents and intellectual property, and customer success engages with the customer, but customers also engage with their partners. And we specifically created this deck to help customers select partners, engage with partners, know what to ask partners, and also know what to share with their partners. So this deck is basically built around who is the audience, what are the capabilities, and what questions do you need to ask your partner to make sure that all parts of the engagement are covered and that you have the most efficient way of communicating and engaging with the partner. So starting with the audience, when we talk to customers that are at the point of selecting a new partner, we basically see that they say, well, as a MuleSoft customer, we are considering engaging with a partner so that we can address delivery capacity or skills gaps quickly and effectively. But we also have customers that already have selected a partner, and they say, well, as your customer, we are currently engaged with a partner to address delivery of capacity and skills gap quickly and effectively. However, we find ourselves unsure of the effectiveness of the engagement. So either you're going to select a partner or you already have a partner, but you're not sure that the engagement with that partner is as effective as it can be. So for those two situations, we've created this specific slide deck to help customers identify where they need to share information, where they need the partner to share information, and how they should engage with the partner to be successful. And again, this is not knowledge that we came up with. This is from actively watching our customers and making sure that we write down the best practices of successful customers who engage with their partners. So what are typical questions? Well, first of all is, what are the common selection criteria to compare partners? And I think after this presentation, you will have a number of questions that you can ask partners to select the ones that match your way of working most closely. If you're a contractor watching this presentation, you can be prepared because you know what questions the customer will ask, so you know what to answer. Also, how do we effectively engage with partners? So can you provide basic guidelines to avoid the most common pitfalls? Will our partner act as a thought leader? And how do we ensure our partner designs and implements with reuse in mind? And it's interesting because these are all questions that my customers have asked me about their partner. And in one situation, when they asked me, will our partner act as a thought leader? I asked them, are you engaging them as a thought leader, or do you give them specifications of applications you need built? Because if that's what you do, your partner will not act as a thought leader. So it's not always about the partner. It's about a partnership between the customer and the partner. And only by working together and making sure that you adjust the way you engage with each other, then you will have a successful relationship and we'll see a lot of value coming out of it. So what I've done is I've taken a number of capabilities that we have identified as crucial for running a MuleSoft environment using the Anypoint platform and the Mule runtimes successfully. And this is true for all customers, customers that engage with partners, customers that engage with our professional services, or customers that have all of the resourcing in-house and don't need partners. This is what needs to be in place. So I've structured this deck around these different capabilities. And for each of the capabilities, I will go and specify what it is that you need to share, what it is that you need to request or ask from your partner, and how we propose you engage with your partner in a way that leads to the most efficient relationship between a customer and a partner going forward. So starting with strategy. Strategy is all about ensuring that your partner knows exactly what you're doing. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish? And what part does your partner play in that specific situation? So when we say strategy, as a customer, you need to share with your partner your business outcomes. You need to give them the bigger picture. You can't just say, I need this API. You need to tell them, we're basically aligning our APIs to this new business strategy that we have. This is the bigger picture. And this one API is part of a much larger initiative, and we're achieving this. Because if the partner knows what part they are playing, they will be able to better understand what they need to build. So share the bigger picture and make sure that the partner is aware of everything that's going on, and don't treat them as a production facility where you just give them, this is a piece of paper that says you need to build this API. They need to have the full picture. One thing you also need to share with the partner are two very important documents. One is called your integration strategy, and the other one is API strategy. When I discuss integration strategy with the customers that I work with on a daily basis, I sometimes get the question, do you really need me to write an integration strategy? And do you want me to say everything needs to be Mule? No, of course not. An integration strategy is a document that describes all the possible use cases for integration that you see in your organization, and it should direct people to using the right tools and the right pattern, so that it's very simple to start integrating. If you know the use case, that document should tell you what tool to use and how to implement it. And then only exceptions need to be approved and need to request approval. If you have a specific use case and you follow the integration strategy document and you implement it in the way that it's described in the integration strategy, then you should go right ahead, because that's exactly why we have such a document. For the API strategy, it's exactly the same. Use cases, what APIs, how APIs, what product to use, and those documents need to be shared with the partner so that they know exactly what to do in what situation. And again, we're not dictating that everything has to be Mule. It has to make sense, it has to be sensible, and it needs to be use case based, and it needs to be clear for everyone. And finally, as a customer working with a partner, you need to share your business imperatives. What are business imperatives? Business imperatives are those decisions that you made that will drive how applications and how APIs and how the platform should be built and configured. So to give you an example, one of my customers basically says, our strategic business imperative is reliability. We need our APIs to be reliable because we want a flawless customer experience. So reliability for us means that we want at least 4 copies of every API running at the same time, so that if there is a glitch somewhere, the customer never finds out. They will always be serviced and they will always get the customer experience that we want them to get. So that's a business imperative. Other customers may have security as a business imperative. They want everything to be secure before it's published. So those business imperatives differ from customer to customer, and you need to share them with your partner to make sure that the partner understands what the basis is and from what angle they are going to develop the APIs and build the platform. So next, what do you need to request as a customer from your partner? And I think most importantly, you should ask your partner to provide metrics that show their efficiency and effectiveness. Now, the Anypoint platform provides metrics that can automatically populate a KPI dashboard. And if you look at GitHub, there's actually a metrics accelerator. It's a very simple metrics framework that is a Mule application that connects to the Anypoint platform and collects a large number of metrics that can then be published in your favorite dashboard. If you're a partner that basically takes over all the development and all the design and the operations of the platform, I would definitely recommend that you proactively share a KPI dashboard with the customer so that they know where you are and how fast you're delivering new APIs and how many you're delivering, and also what measure of reuse you're achieving with the platform. At the same time, as a customer, you should ask your partner to attend a MuleSoft Catalyst workshop and the API-led connectivity webinar. And those are webinars and workshops that are available to all MuleSoft's partners. And I'm going to switch out of the presentation and I'm going to share our website, because here you have partners and here we have the partner calendar. And in that partner calendar are all these sessions that our channel team organize for our partners. And it's incredible how much value is in there. Instructor-led courses for Mule, webinars about Catalyst, webinars about API-led connectivity. So if you're a contractor, if you're a Mule partner, this is a resource that is very valuable, because what customer success does for partners, our channel team does, what customer success does for customers, our channel and partner team does for partners. So you get a lot of Mule information from the partner team, and you have your own partner program with all these amazing resources at your availability. So let me go back and present. So that's the partner program. And again, if you're a contractor or a MuleSoft partner, you should definitely go to this calendar and see what events are scheduled in the future. So next, so we had the, what should you share with your partner? What should you ask from your partner? And this is, how should you engage with your partner? Your partner should regularly align with the MuleSoft account team. There are three parties. There's MuleSoft customer success and the account team. There's the customer, and then there's the partner. So the partner needs to make sure that there's a three-party communication and alignment happening at regular intervals. Second, and this was something I said earlier, your partner should provide thought leadership, but don't expect them to provide thought leadership unless you ask. So you want your partner to design applications and implement those applications with reuse in mind. You want them to avoid a projectized mindset and think about a product mindset. And you want the partner to adhere to the API-led connectivity, you know, the three-layer model with system, process, and experience APIs, and build an API, an application network. So a composable infrastructure with exposed value through APIs. But you need to engage with your partner at the level of thought leadership and not at the level of, I need you to build a certain application. If you ask, your partner will provide it. And then finally, there needs to be a handover process for applications that are about to be promoted into production. We call that runbooks. There needs to be an operational runbook for the platform and for each individual application that is promoted into production. And it needs to contain the application metrics that were observed during performance testing. What is the normal number of transactions per second? What's the average payload size? And what's the normal CPU and memory consumption? So that if the partner runs the applications in production, they know exactly what to expect. And if they see different behavior, they can immediately notify the development team. Okay, we spoke about strategy. How about organization? What should you share with your partner? Well, actually, you should share every single asset that the C4E owns. So that's design and coding standards, design and implementation patterns, examples, guidelines, architecture documents, data models, RAML fragments, and all the other assets that your C4E has produced that make sense for the partner to use and to further develop. So the more you give to your partner, the better they will be able to work in conjunction and engage with you and deliver value. So what should you ask your partner? You should ask them to share with you a plan of how their operating model will scale for the future. How will the partner realize that increase in speed of delivery, increase in speed of innovation? And what kind of questions should you ask? Well, first one is, can new teams onboard quickly through self-service, or do they need to basically set up a meeting with the partner to be onboarded? What happens when you select a different system integrator for a new project? And finally, when marketing brings in a boutique app developer, can they work in complete isolation? Or do they require assistance from the partner? So those are questions that are very important to figure out if teams that want to onboard or if marketing wants to hire this small group of developers, can they work, can they do their thing without having to be involved in all kinds of meetings with other teams, or can they just do their thing, build the application and leave again? And finally, how do you engage? First of all, you have to introduce your partner and all the resources the partner brings in to the permanent members of your C4E. And you need to ensure that your partner is familiar with the fundamental differences between a center of excellence and a center for enablement. And again, customer success can help you there, but also partners have access to the Catalyst Knowledge Hub, and they can read all about the differences between a COE and C4E. And as a contractor, I would definitely recommend you read up on C4E because that is something that all our customers are implementing, and it will help you tremendously if you know exactly what that means. And then only if applicable, ensure your partner understands the role of MuleSoft professional services in the engagement. If the customer has selected MuleSoft professional services to, for instance, launch their C4E or build a number of critical assets, there are even more parties involved. So are you on board with coexisting alongside MuleSoft professional services, and do you have concerns? That needs to be discussed between the customer and the partner, and maybe even with professional services as well. Governance. As part of the customer partner governance, you need to make sure that you share a list of all the subject matter experts that the partner may need to reach out to, who can help them expose system APIs for core applications. So your partner may not be the expert for all your different core applications. So they may, at some point, require assistance from a subject matter expert, if only to learn how your implementation differs from all the other implementations that they've seen. So it's vital that they have access to subject matter experts to discuss how they can expose one of your systems and make sure that the configuration and governance of those applications is embedded in the exposure through the API. For governance, what should you request? I think most importantly, the partner should use the existing IT management environment of the customer. I know that a number of MuleSoft partners have their own monitoring solutions and their own log analytics solutions, and maybe even their own CI/CD pipeline. But the problem is, if the customer decides to select a new partner, all those features are gone. So we advise our customers to always put in place their own monitoring, their own log analytics, and their own CI/CD pipeline. I also know that many partners provide incident, problem, and change management, etc. But we recommend our customers to own all these processes themselves, and they can be operated by a partner or a system integrator. That's fine. But the process itself and the tools and the software and the integrations between these different components all need to be within the IT management environment of the partner, of the customer. And the partner needs to use these environments for continuance and also for making sure that integration is part of the wider IT initiatives. In terms of engagements within the governance capability, you need to set up an architecture review board that signs off all the designs before they are built. And why is that? Well, you need to ensure that all APIs and or integrations are designed with reuse in mind, follow API-led connectivity best practices, and contribute to building your application network. I've been in discussions with customers where the customer said, yeah, we're not very happy about the first delivery of our partner. And then we look and we say, well, actually, the partner built exactly what you requested. Look at your documentation and look what they delivered. It's one-on-one. Yes, but we were expecting, and then basically we need to have this discussion. If you have expectations, you need to write them down and you need to share them with your partner. And that's why we recommend that you make sure that the partner understands that even though you don't ask for every API, that you want them to design with reuse in mind. And you want them to follow API-led connectivity best practice. If you don't, then they won't. And then you will get exactly what you ask for. So it's unfair to say I'm disappointed, even though the partner delivered exactly what you requested. But that's because you need to be clear about what context you expect around the delivery of those new APIs. Program management is all about making sure that the delivery of new value happens in an effective and efficient way. And as part of the what do you need to share with your partner, well, you should share and agree on a process for project or sprint intake with the partner. Make sure that you capture demand and ideas, make sure that you manage the demand and individual requests. You do scoring, scoping, and prioritization of the demand. You make sure that milestones are defined either in a phased or gradual delivery. You need to make sure that the complexity is known before you actually start coding. And you need to do a t-shirt sizing exercise where you assign a relative size for the integration. And that is needed so that you know when to expect a first version of that integration. So for program management, these are the things that you need to share. You need to make sure that this information is known before the partner actually goes off and builds you this new API. What should you request in terms of program management? Well, for transparency and end-to-end view of every bit of work in progress, you need to request that your partner uses your corporate backlog. And all items in the backlog should be reprioritized based on their alignment to your corporate strategy. You shouldn't be afraid to stop initiatives and projects that are ongoing when they no longer align with your corporate strategy. And the only way for a partner to know that there have been changes is by making sure that they use your corporate backlog and that they understand that if there are changes to your corporate strategy, that they know exactly what the impact is of the existing work and the future work. And you do that by sharing your backlog. So how do you engage with the partner? You should provide your partner with a measurable project delivery KPI to determine success. So you need to agree upfront, what are the metrics for success? What will we measure you against when you deliver new functionality? So that should be completion and publication of new APIs and integration, the percentage of reuse, the governance that was implemented, but also how many assets were created. Are we creating just the API, or are we creating documentation around it? Are we publishing it in a public portal, etc., etc.? So this should be defined so that the partner knows exactly, how are you measuring me? What do I need to complete to get an A, or maybe even an A+. My favorite topic, architecture. It's extremely important in integration because it can make and break the success of APIs and integrations in general. So in terms of architecture, what do you need to share with your partner? First of all, they need to have the big picture. So they need to have the platform reference architecture. They also need access to all your common integration patterns and templates. And you need to provide common building blocks for security, transaction management, exception handling, logging, analytics, and API policies. And when we tell a customer this, they go, wait a minute, I'm engaging with a partner because I want them to provide this. And that's perfectly logical, and it's perfectly acceptable. Because one of the reasons why you engage with a partner is because you want to kickstart the development, and you want to use the knowledge and the experience and subject matter expertise of the partner to not only kickstart, but sort of accelerate the implementation of the platform in your specific business. So again, it's perfectly okay if you expect the partner to come up with the common building blocks for security, for transaction management, etc. That's fine. But if you have them, you need to share them with your partner. If you don't have them, you have to specifically tell your partner, I need you to spend time on completing common building blocks for everyone. And this is the list of common building blocks that I want you to deliver first. What do you need to request from the partner? Well, we feel very strongly about this. You need to request that at least the partner's lead architects are trained and certified. They need to have the MuleSoft certified architecture certification. And they need to understand that everything they do should drive reuse and should be implemented using the API-led architecture. And second, you need to ensure that the partner tracks and demonstrates reuse across all the APIs that are delivered. So for that, we can use the metrics framework that I discussed earlier, and it should be part of the KPIs that you present back to the customer to show how efficient and how well you're doing. So when it comes to architecture, how do you engage with your partner? I think one of the things that is most annoying in working with customers who want to set up VPCs and VPNs and direct connections and DLBs is that the customer thinks that a developer is the right person to have those discussions with our experts. And why am I saying that? Because so many times we get into a situation where the customer says, oh, and dear partner, we need you to set up our network. And a developer says, okay, and what do you want me to do? Well, I want you to connect with MuleSoft and get VPCs configured and get DLBs and VPN, everything in place so that we can start. And that's not fair. A developer is not a network expert. And if you're talking to our operations team, those people are absolute experts in their field. They are the networking people. Your partner, as a customer, your partner needs to have access to the networking team. And that networking team needs to take part in the calls with MuleSoft to ensure that all the answers about what IP ranges, what CIDRs, what firewall rules, what type of VPN encryption or tunnel size or tunnel timeouts, all of that is very specific to networking teams. And if you expect the developer to go and sit in between and fix that, that's just wrong. So our advice is make sure that the partner has access to the networking team and that the networking team is ready to engage with the MuleSoft ops team when setting up VPCs, VPNs, DLBs, etc. And there should be no exception. It's unfair. It will be unfair for me to be able to have to do that because I'm not a network expert and I don't even speak the same language as our operations people. So make sure that somebody from the networking team talks to our networking people, and then VPCs, VPNs will be easy. Next, you need to put a mechanism in place to stop your partner from using or implementing anti-patterns. You have the architecture review board that we see as a best practice, and they basically verify that the design is approved by the architecture review board and has been implemented in such a way. So even when the design has been approved, you also need to make sure that the implementation adheres to the design that was approved. And then finally, create a mutually agreed long-term plan for building out the capacity of the Anypoint platform and unlocking critical information. This is all about the mission, vision, strategy, the to-be state of the platform. Share that with the partner and engage with the partner in such a way that the partner becomes a part, an integral part of that mission and vision, and extending the platform for future use, for future capabilities, things like evented API or GraphQL. You need to have that discussion before you start implementing these new technologies. And then my favorite part, development. What do you need to share with the developers that build your APIs and create all this value? Well, first of all, you need to share your security policies with your partner. And you also need to make sure that you provide CI/CD services like automated testing and static code analysis. Why? Because those are features that the developer needs to ensure the delivery, consistent delivery of quality code. And also you need to provide non-functional requirements for each API or integration. It's not okay if you tell a developer, yeah, it needs to be really fast. You need to be able to specify how fast, what's an acceptable response time, what should the availability be, what should the average payload size be, and how many transactions per second are you expecting? Only then will a developer be able to build the best possible application for your request. So if you turn this around, as a developer, as a contractor, you should not start building any application or integration without specific information that describes the non-functional requirements of the API. What should you request? Or what should the customer request? The customer should request that all partners developers are trained and certified. Minimum MuleSoft certified developer. They need to be experienced in delivering performant, secure, enterprise class APIs and integrations, and they need to code with an API first approach. Secondly, test coverage of the APIs that are delivered by the partner should be above 85%. That can be enforced with a CI/CD pipeline that basically uses MUnit in conjunction with static code checking like SonarQube. And by doing this, you're shifting left, which means that you're catching possible issues before they are promoted into production, which means that you're lowering maintenance costs and you're speeding up the development process. How do you engage partner developers? Well, first of all, during the implementation and the deploying of APIs and integration, you need those developers to use your source control tool and your CI/CD pipeline. Never have anyone deploy into production manually. Those access rights should be restricted. They should not be handed out to developers, and only in exceptions should there be somebody allowed to actually deploy into production. CI/CD pipeline needs to do that because it's a repeatable process and it delivers the quality that you need. CI/CD pipelines don't forget configuration files, don't forget to change from test to production, all the settings that need to be changed. So almost demand that partners use source control and CI/CD pipeline along with the IT infrastructure of the customer itself. You should also enforce responsibility isolation between your partners' resources. In some cases, customers of mine have a partner that does everything. So they do the design of the APIs, they do the development of the APIs, and they operate the APIs on the Anypoint platform and in Cloud Hub. You want to have specific resources within your partner that have responsibilities for specific parts. You don't want developers to have permission in production to start or stop APIs, and you don't want to have operators that have access to source code. That needs to be isolated from each other, and even though you're engaging with a partner, those roles need to be clearly defined and clearly secured, so that there is no one that can write code and put it into production. Especially in the financial world, that is unacceptable. And then finally, engage with developers. Your partner should develop with functional testing and non-functional testing in mind. Functional testing using MUnit, non-functional testing by performance testing for capacity and sizing. Making sure that first of all, the code coverage is at least 85%. And second of all, that you test for performance. Today, I had a discussion with a customer that said, we have an application that stops working and then is restarted, and we don't do anything. And then after it's restarted, it runs for a while and then it stops working and it's restarted again. And 90% of the time when that happens, we look at the application, it's deployed as a 0.1 vCore in Cloud Hub, and we see what's happening. It runs out of memory. And when Java runs out of memory, it can't spawn new threads, it can't listen for new requests, and it stops functioning, and the worker in Cloud Hub becomes impaired. Now, our platform, our Anypoint platform, sees that and says, okay, we have a worker that's impaired. Let's quickly recreate that worker in a different availability zone to ensure that this application continues running. So the platform actually stops the old application and creates a new one. And that's what what the customer sees. What the customer doesn't see is that the moment it gets hit with requests, it starts running out of memory again. And by the time it's completely out of memory, it will become impaired and our platform will restart it again. So it's not the platform that is behaving unpredictably, it's the application that is behaving unpredictably because it wasn't performance tested. It's getting more requests than it should be getting, or the payload has grown significantly since the time it was developed. So it's absolutely vital that both functional and non-functional tests are performed before applications are in production. Operations. What do you need to share for operations? You need to share your process for handing off new APIs from development to operations with your partner. And even if the partner is responsible for both development and operations, there needs to be a runbook. And in that runbook, there need to be test results of the performance test so that when you see unexpected behavior, you can go to the runbook and check, is this the number of transactions per second we're expecting? Is this the payload size that we're expecting? If not, then you can go back to development and say, okay, we're seeing something strange, we need assistance. At the same time, you also need to share your internal escalation process with your partner. Who has what responsibility and what are the notification mechanisms that are in place? And finally, what should you request, or what should you request from your partner? First of all, request that all your partner's operators are trained. There are specific trainings for operators, both on Cloud Hub, Runtime Fabric, and customer-hosted runtimes, and also about API management. You should request application-specific uptime service level agreements. They should be provided by your partner, and your partner should define and publish maintenance windows so that you know exactly when to expect outages. How do you engage? Well, first of all, the partner should utilize your existing procedures for incident, problem, and change. And your partner should also utilize your existing tooling for monitoring and log analytics. If you don't have tooling in place, it's very easy to accept that your SI or partner has these tools and they can use their own tools. But again, should you decide to change your SI or change your partner, you lose all your logging and all your log analytics. That is valuable information and it should stay in your company. So that's why we advise our customers to use their own monitoring and log analytics systems. And now something that is probably not as visible to everyone, but it's of vital importance, and that is community activities. Community activities drive the knowledge and success of integration in an organization. So when you start your community activities, you need to ask your partner to participate in and drive community activities. And it can be as simple as blogs or demonstration during an all hands or a lunch and learn session about either a new API or a new feature on the platform or a new value stream that was completed. Partners should participate in brown bag sessions, in workshops, in meetups, and even in hackathons. So about a year ago, I went to India with a colleague of mine, a team member of mine, to work with a large customer who had a large Indian presence, and we ran a hackathon there. First of all, we were amazed by the ambition of the people, the number of teams that actually registered for the hackathon. But I think the most impressive thing was that out of the top 7 hackathon projects that were presented, 5 actually ended up being implemented by that company and are still running in production today. So hackathons are a perfect way to show the investment of the partner in the customer, but also show the interest of the partner in the customer's business and in the customer's community. So I would definitely recommend to be involved not only in providing APIs and using the customer system, but also be active in the customer's community activities and show that you are invested in the success of the customer. Any questions? Angel, can you open it up for questions, please?
Yes, we only have one question. Actually, it's coming from Barcode. It's actually preparing to share the performance profiling session, but the question is around functional and non-functional testing. What are the differences, and if we have to do it both in one application?
Yes and no. Yes, you need to do both functional and non-functional testing. What are the differences? Functional testing is something that you can use MUnit for, and it basically means that you try to cover all of the code by creating situations and expecting specific results. And if those results don't come out, then the test is invalid. So it's a functional test where you say, I'm going to request a known customer and I want to get the customer information. If I use a known customer ID, I should get customer information in return. If I use an unknown customer ID, I should not get customer information and I should get a specific error message. That is functional testing, and it's basically done. Most of our customers use MUnit, but you can use other systems to automate the testing and to test for expected results. Non-functional testing is called performance testing, and it basically is a process where you define a scope of infrastructure. So in CloudHub, that's the size of a worker. And you test the application by launching a number of requests, and you increase that number of requests over a time frame. So you start with maybe 5 transactions per second, and then you go to 10, and so on, until the application breaks, until it's overwhelmed by the number of transactions per second. That's where you found the maximum number of transactions that this specific worker, so let's say a 0.1 vCore, can handle. Then you repeat the process with a 0.2 vCore, and you do it again. And then you will find that a 0.2 vCore can handle more transactions per second. But it also has a breakpoint. Then you do the same process again with 2 0.1 vCores. And because you're load balancing across 2 workers, you can probably get to twice the number of transactions compared to a single 0.1 vCore. Now you take all these test results, you put them in a document, and you present them to the person or team or group that requested this specific API, and you tell them, for this infrastructure, we can do so many transactions per second with this payload size. For this infrastructure, maybe 0.2 or 2 0.2 vCores, we can process this many transactions per second. And then that team or group or person can decide based on the cost of the infrastructure what they want to do. You're giving them options. You're telling them this amount of transactions per second will cost you this much, and so on and so on. So they have options, they have choices. Now, in a physical environment, that would be very labor intensive because you would have to install a machine, you install the runtime, install the application, and then test it, and then take a bigger machine and install it, and install the runtime and the application, and then test it. But we're in a new era of the cloud, and it's very easy in the CI/CD pipeline to spin up a worker, to test it for 2 hours, and then to spin it down, to spin up 2 workers, test it, and spin it down, and write down the information of the test and present that back to the people who are funding the work to make a decision. So functional testing is about following the application logic and offering valid data to get valid results, invalid data to get invalid results. And performance testing or non-functional testing is about making sure that the infrastructure you are assigning to the work is actually up to the task, and that you can predict that even if you double the number of transactions, that you're still comfortably running that on the given infrastructure. And if not, that the infrastructure needs to be improved or increased. I hope that is a good enough answer.
I think so. Yeah, we are getting great. Thank you both, Arno and Angel. Yeah, Arno, that was very insightful, actually. I was expecting something shorter, but you got all the details there, and I open up for the session that we have recorded from the performance profiling session that you actually put together with Sandeep. And we do have to record it. So for everyone else to be aware of, just share it there in the chat. And that one is around 1 hour, and it covers part of what Arno already mentioned and some of the technologies that you can use for the performance profiling. Whether you're doing different kinds of tests, you will use cloud tools like Float.io and other tools that you have available, or whether you're doing something as functional tests where you're thinking as well from Postman and Newman scripts that you integrate in your automation pipeline. So thank you for that, Arno. We don't have any other questions. So with that, thank you for the great session. I hope it has been very insightful for plenty of people. We saw a lot of engagement from Tony. And yeah, thank you once again, Arno, for putting the time for the community.
It was my pleasure, Angel. Thank you very much for hosting this session.
Excellent. And with that, we're going to let you go for dinner. And now we're going to present our next session, that is API-led in practice. So this is not a marketing session. This is a session with some hands-on. I'm going to show you some of the elements that you need to know when presenting API-led to people that are non-technical, but that will take 5 minutes. And then we jump into the hands-on on how to build your own API-led with Alexa. You will create an Alexa contest application, and you will be able to use it for your own projects. It's not going to be all finished in this session, but you will have the idea on how to build it yourself. You will get barcode, just so you know. You will get all the recordings, all the sessions that we do are recorded and sent into the VirtualMuleys channel. I will share it as well at the end of my session so that you can have it there. Now, with that said, let's kick session. And these are, again, 5 minutes. That is how you're going to present, or how you can present API-led to people that are not that technical. We know that in integration, there's a lot of challenges. You have all these different, you have batch, you have microservices, files, publisher, subscribers, ETLs, events, and then you have integration. Very quickly, this is when you think about all the point-to-point connections that you will make and all the problems that arise from that. We continue. And that's when we think about modern businesses need a new approach. That's when you think about API-led, when you think about microservices. Again, this is going to take less than 2 minutes more. This is usually a presentation that you can give also to business-related people or people that are starting with API-led or development in MuleSoft, so that they understand very easily what is the messaging. So in this slide, we think about doing Lego blocks. So imagine that you have a huge monolith architecture, and then you want to build something that is reusable. It's harder when you have the monolith because you don't have the visibility. Here we're talking about API-led and having these Lego blocks, but we will see how that works, right? Because it's easy to mention it in theory, but how does that look in practice? So this will take 30 seconds. What is an API? Imagine that you are in a restaurant, you're ordering some food, you want some fish and chips, and maybe with some condensed lager for drink. You tell that to the waiter, and the waiter will go to the kitchen and place your order. He will also check that if you want any nibbles, if you want any more drinks, and once that the order is ready, he will come to your table and will give you the plate You didn't have to know the languages that they were speaking in the kitchen, what are all the ingredients that are in the dish, or how to prepare it yourself. It was all made for you. So in this case, we say that the waiter is like an API, the messenger that handles all the communications for you, those abstracting you from the complexity of the backend system. In this case, you can think about it, the kitchen. Now, with that, we open out for API-led. I'm not going to put too much time in this one because we know that in the community there's a lot of knowledge already, and we want to do the practical side, put more emphasis on it. But think about the three main layers that we talk about: system, process, and experience. System APIs, you abstract how you work with the data in the backend system. Process API, you orchestrate and you give business meaning. Imagine in this case, you have customer, and customer has a process API, and you have these other two backend systems, SAP customer and Salesforce customer. Once you go to the process level, you're giving them meaning, the meaning of customers, instead of relying on the backend. And that's a part of the modern APIs. Now, real scenarios. We're going to do this quick scenario, 2 minutes of Pacific Life, and then we can jump into a little bit of the implementation. Now, Pacific Life is a huge life insurance and retirement company in United States, and they offer services for life insurance, annuities, and mutual funds to financial professionals. So they were having a couple of obstacles. You may have heard of this before. You have a very competitive market. You do have legacy systems. You have a lot of silo between your teams or between your systems even. And they needed to quickly start developing for 3 different approaches. The first one was to empower their brokers and agents to get real-time data. The second one was around how to attract younger people into using the service. That was with Alexa, one of the ideas. It could be Internet of Things, anything that can lure younger generation in and make their life more comfortable. And the third one was to expand the market share through partnerships. They were having issues integrating partners into their current system. And that's when they API-led. I'm not trying to sell MuleSoft to you. This is just so you have an idea of how this can be presented to maybe people within your organization. Maybe there are other developers that don't understand what is the messaging behind it, and this is how you can present it. So think about the system APIs, then you abstract. In this case, you can see in the bottom DynamoDB. The icon is a little bit small. SE2, it was the internal monolith system that they created in Pacific Life. It's the core of Pacific Life. And then you have FileNet and Munich RE. Munich RE is one of their providers that is for anything that is rewriting, that is a very complex activity. So without getting too much into the details, what Pacific Life managed to do is to create their own API-led. And that way you have your system APIs, your process APIs, and experience APIs. Is when it becomes clearly easier. In this case, Blueprint Income was one partner. So they needed to integrate with multiple partners, up to 20 partners maybe. And now they can do it by exposing with one experience API instead of coding the whole setup of logic behind it. It's just the messaging, how the message is going to cross back to the partner. It's what we call the omni-channel. With that said, we're almost closing this. We usually take around 40 minutes to this session when we talk with business. But just to close the idea, the first project is going to take a lot of time. It will take the same time as building in the monolith, for example, and you will build all these different APIs: financial professional API, client profile API, underwriting API, quote API, and policy API. But at the moment that you go to the second project, what you need to do is to build on top of what you created. So you build that experience API that we saw in the top, Alexa API, and your client channel API. For project 3, you want the Alexa API. On top of that, you're putting the partner API. So again, partner API here, Alexa API, and the consumers APIs that you can see here. That is the goal of it, that you can reuse the assets, and you have these Lego blocks. Now, another example, and then we can jump into the actual implementations that you are interested in seeing, and we do the event with the prices, the chocolate company scenario. This is a chocolate company that is based in Europe, and they were looking to do different implementations with the IoT devices. At the end, they did 3 of them. One was the Alexa API, Google Home API, and the Slack API. They built all of these in Experience APIs, and they integrated to different devices. The one from Alexa, the Google Home, and the Slack through Slack bots, so that you can just write a command on Slack, and you will retrieve that information. Some of the messages that you can think about. So how many ABC chocolates were distributed today? Or maybe what was our reviews or revenue in Q1? Or maybe how many chocolate products do we have available in inventory? Imagine that you're one of the stores, to mention one. Now, quickly overview of the Anypoint platforms to make sure that everyone understands the hands-on that we're going to do later on. Think about the MuleSoft Anypoint platform. When you break into the components, you have Anypoint Design Center for your API specifications. When you're designing your APIs, everyone that is an API designer is working there. Then you have the Anypoint Management Center, and you can see there the link between the two of them is Anypoint Exchange. That's the discoverability. That's where you publish your assets, right? Now, you have also the runtime engine and services. This is the runtime manager, and this is what we call the runtime plane. Lastly, in the bottom, you can see MuleSoft Catalyst. MuleSoft Catalyst is what Arno was mentioning in the previous session. So in Catalyst, you can find all the resources that were created by professional services, by our customers, and by our partners that are shareable. So you will find there resources for Center for Enablement so that you can build your organization capability. And then the Knowledge Hub, which means this space that you can find implementations about CI/CD, you can find best practices around PPC sizing, and you can find other best practices about performance tuning and so forth. Very important. Now, we're moving on. This is the API lifecycle. You have seen it. This is very similar to the DevOps and software development lifecycles that as developers we're very familiar with. Think about the start. So you start designing with API Designer in Design Center. Then you go to the prototyping with the mocking service. Then you go into the validation with API nodes. And then you have your standard development setup, which is Anypoint Studio and working for tests with MUnit. Then you deploy into Runtime Manager. You will grab that application that you created locally, and you will deploy into Runtime Manager. And you can use API Manager to enforce policies on those applications. All of this, you can see it through Anypoint Visualizer. You will see the architecture and the troubleshooting you can make in Visualizer. And then you can also have Anypoint Monitoring if you want to drill down into what is going on with that application. Finally, you have your application published into the API Community Manager or into the Exchange portal. That's the place where you will discover your assets. This is another view that involves a little bit of DevOps in case that you're interested. So think about the API designers designing in Design Center. The collaboration is done through Exchange. The developers then can work in Anypoint Studio. And then the that you see there are tables and components that are out of the MuleSoft scope that you will satisfy whether with, in this case, let's take a look at the first one, source code management. That is whether GitHub, Bitbucket, whichever you're using. So the developer will publish the code there, and then you will have an automation pipeline where this could be Jenkins, could be anything really. And you will be able to test, to build, to store your builds, and to deploy your applications into using Runtime Manager into the environments that you define. We're not putting too much focus on this, but you need to know it before we dive into the hands-on. Now, let's go into the questions time. We are going to do the one that you have already met last week. We're going to do first, let me see where I can share the links here to make sure that you have it. So yeah, this is how it's going to look like. As you can see in the screen, it's going to be the same quiz that we did. You have the first name, last name, the company, and you have to answer for round 1, for round 2, and round 3. You have to put if it's A, B, C, or D, the correct option. What is going to happen? We're going to go through the 3 questions. You're going to answer the 3 questions, and then you can submit. Now, you need to go right now, open a new tab in your browser, or scan the QR code and go to meetup.cloudhub.io. meetupcontest.cloudhub.io. Let me put it here in case you haven't seen it. And in there, you can start filling your first name, last name, and company is optional, to be honest. But please, you can put any information there that makes us show that your name is unique, for example. Now, I will give you 5 seconds more to make sure that you're ready. And then we're going to trigger the session with the questions. We will select 3 winners from the people that have answered correctly all the 3 questions randomly, and we will get the prizes. In this case, the prizes will be, and sorry that I skipped that before, is the Data Week training and the Cloud Hub Operations training. Once again, you can pick one of those 2. Okay, with that said, I will assume that we're all ready to go. And the first question is, where can you create your API specifications? Is it in Secrets Manager, option A? Is it B, Design Center? Is it C, in Tokenizer? Is it D, in Gateway Control? Where can you create your API specification? Barcode, please don't put the answers here. Go to the website, put your first name, your last name, and answer there. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to participate for the raffle. Okay, please select the correct option for round number 1. We will give 5 seconds more. Okay, with that, we will move on. This is question 2. This is round number 2. Where do you discover API assets? Is it A, in the marketplace, B, repository, C, store, D, Anypoint Exchange, or API Community Manager? Where do you discover API assets? Please mark the correct answer for round number 2. Okay, we will move on. Now, round number 3, final question, which is not an API-led connectivity layer. This is hopefully very obvious. A, bring your own Kubernetes RTF for AKS, EKS. B, experience. C, system. D, process. Which is not an API-led connectivity layer? Please answer the question number 3, and you can hit the submit button. If you see an error, don't worry, because I want to take a moment at the end to tell you about synchronous API-led connectivity and when you need to consider other approaches. Okay, done. Great. We're going to move on to the architecture, and then we're going to select the winners. Excellent. Thank you for confirming. Excellent. Before we select the winners, and just so you're aware, this is how it all works. You are here, you are the participant submitting the form, and your data is going to the Experience API, to a Process API, and to a System API that stores in a database. What is going on here is that we do have also a proxy on top of this Experience API, so we will be able to see an interesting graph of where in the world you are making the request from. Where are you submitted that HTML form? Now, other details here. Once I go to Alexa, I will ask for the winner, and Alexa will go into the Experience API into the process API in contest and go and retrieve the winners, potential winners from the database. It will apply some logic here in the contest, and then it will select the 3 winners. Now, let me quickly see the chat that everything is okay. The recording will be in the main page, David, of the Meetup event and in the VirtualMuleys. I will send the link once I finish with the session. Now, the moment of truth, we're going to see if it all works. So I will ask Alexa to choose a winner. Alexa, open MuleSoft contest winner. And it's taking a while. That is normal when you're using.
Looks like we have a winner. And the winner is... Dun dun dun. Abiram Pulijala. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Abiram Pulijala. Please send me a direct message because I will need your email. Sorry for the pronunciation. First name, last name, and email through direct messages. If you don't know how to send a direct message, just click the arrow that appears in my name and send a direct message. Congratulations. So we're going to go for the second winner. Prepare yourselves. Open MuleSoft contest winner. The reason why it's taking a while.
Looks like we have a winner. And the winner is... Dun dun dun. Mariva Injuku.
Yeah, Mandava Indukuri, you have won. You can write to me a direct message. And you can also type which of the 2 offerings of the MuleSoft courses you would like. I will need your first name, last name, email, and which of the 2 Mule courses would you like? The Data with 2.0 training or the Cloud operations? Now we're moving to the tier 1. Open MuleSoft contest winner.
Looks like we have a winner. And the winner is... Dun dun dun. Shanmuka Reddy Ilavala. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, Shanmuka Reddy Lavala. You can see it here. I will show you actually what are the list of our winners, because if you go back to the main screen and you see this diagram, we do have also notifications on Twitter. So we can show you right here the winners, and you can see all my tests from this morning. The 3 main winners for today: Abiram Pulijala, Madhava Indukuri, and Shanmuka Reddy Ilavala. And apologies for the pronunciation of your names. You are the 3 winners. Congratulations. Now, let's see why would you do API-led connectivity with this one specifically, and then we jump into a hands-on on how different parts of the platform or different parts of the development you need to do to create this demo. The idea here, and you can see it in the screen right now, is that you will create, it will take more time to develop API-led connectivity at the beginning, but then imagine that tomorrow you want to extend, you want to add some other IoT devices, a Google Home, or you want to add maybe a sensor, anything that is even Arduino, something else that you want to add there. Maybe it's just an SMS receiver, or you want to add any other thing has an omni-channel. You can just do it by adding a layer on the top, and you will be using the same API that the current contest API is using. The only thing you need to figure out is how to retrieve that information. Is it a Java code? Is it something else, right? Now, in the same example, you can think about a process API. Maybe tomorrow you want to extract the LinkedIn data So every time that there's a winner, you also want to grab some of the information from LinkedIn and say, oh, wow, he's a person that has more than 10 years developing in MuleSoft, to mention an example. Then you create the system API and so forth. For the notifications, it's more interesting. You can put a simple main transfer protocol or Slack maybe, or even sending an SMS. Maybe your participants are registering the phone number. So you also notify them that they won by the phone number. Okay, 1 second, please. I just want to make sure that I have all the information. Madava, thank you. I have seen your information. Excellent. Shanmuka ready. Excellent. I have your information. Perfect. And once, excellent. And we're missing, sorry, who are we missing from the winners? Shanmuka, Madava, Abiram Puliyala. Are you able to send me a direct message, please? How the correct answer is compared. Yes, we're going to see part of that. We have less than 10 minutes, but I will try to show you everything I can about the implementation of this demo. So to do that, let's go into some of the details. There is a database behind the MySQL database that I mentioned. Here I can see how many participants actually submitted the request. We had around 28 that submitted the request. How the correct answer is calculated? First, we store all the answers, and let me show you here. I should be able to show you the table I was actually using. Let me see if I can remember how was to see the structure of this table. 1 second. We can open the schema. We can probably open the columns, and you can see that there is the first name, last name, company, mobile, that could be in the future, the date, the email, that could be in the future, has the Twitter, and the correct answer. So we're compiling, we're putting which of the answers you gave, and then there's a business logic in the process API that will determine who had a correct answer. The business API will also make that request back to the system, so it doesn't retrieve everyone. It retrieves only the potential winners. Now, there's a bunch of components that you will be interested in seeing. So the first one, if everything were according to the anypoint monitoring, you should be able to see the spike here. This is within the anypoint platform. You go into anypoint monitoring, and we open the MuleSoft context experience. This is actually a proxy. You were underneath calling my implementation URL, which is the xcontext eucloudhub.io. You can see here the number of requests we got. We got around 22 at the same time, which means around the same minute, to be fair. And let me refresh, because there was a small bug there around the scrolling. Just to show you more of the, let me move the chat window here so I can see you. Excellent, Abiran, I can see your DM now. Okay, excellent. Let's continue to scroll here a little bit more. One of you got the 404 error. There were 7 post requests there were the post requests with an average time. There was also a get request. That was my request actually, and the average time to retrieve the request. That was when Alexa was retrieving the information. This is because we're currently using a free tier of Aurora, the AWS storage for our database management system. That's where we had delays there. So there is some other information here that could be relevant, but what it's interesting here, we can see as well the number of transactions, the number of requests that we got in total, but this in case will be by 5 minutes. That's why it appears as 68. This is when you go into API Manager, you're checking your proxy, that in this case is the meetups.context.us cloud.io, and you can see the violation of policies. It was 1404. Now, there is another part of it that it would be interesting. Actually, let me show you how you can get to that menu. In here, you're in the API manager, and we selected our API instance from the proxy. Then we can go into the actual analytics dashboard that is still available, and you will see, of course, I have to select the environment. I have to select the range, and I have to select the, let's put the last hour. So we can see from where you're submitting your request. And I'm actually impressed because I didn't expect so many people from United States, from Canada. Oh, there's people from all over the world, actually. We have India as well. We have Spain, Italy. We have someone from Netherlands. Hopefully this is, yeah, 3 from Belgium. And we have 2 people from the United Kingdom. How many do we have in the... Okay, we have people that were actually accessing, 11 accessing from the QR code. Glad to see that. Plenty of users of Windows, some in Mac, some in Linux, 1 in Ubuntu, actually. So congratulations to our Ubuntu user. 1 second. Yes, Peru, but I was trying to see how many people were actually there. 3 people. Okay. Great. So with that, we cover, this is the view from API Analytics from the API Manager, and you get that out of the box. All of this is out of the box. These dashboards are all out of the box in any point monitoring. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is Visualizer. And here, I was actually expecting more errors because I caused some fake requests to happen. And there were some errors happening in the Pro process API, which is the Pro contest. Here you can see this is Visualizer. It's another, sorry that it's been a little bit run through, but there's different levels of knowledge in this session. So from the Management Center, you can see all the tabs that I talked about before. So Runtime Manager, Visualizer, API Manager. Now we're focused on Visualizer. In Visualizer, you can see in the troubleshooting view that there were some errors. Those errors happen in the process contest API. What happens here is that you can actually drill down to see what those errors were, and that will open the view into the logs. If it's loading properly, there will go. In the meanwhile, I will quickly see through the... how many from UK? 2, Nivi. I'm guessing in this case, it has been you and Eduardo. That would be my guess. Excellent. So while this is loading, you can see here that this is the log search capability. Not everyone has it enabled, but if you do, it's a great feature, as you can drill down through errors, you filter by errors, and you can see here what were the errors actually happening. And this was in the afternoon. This is not the time we want. We want the last 15 minutes in the time that you submitted your request. And it seems that there was no errors reported by the search. 1 second. And let's also, yeah, it seems that Visualizer was not updated, the view in Visualizer. So I will need to refresh this one. The errors were coming from the 4.6.16. That is when I was doing some extra testing. Let's do a quick refresh here, and we'll be able to see how Visualizer is actually working and if I have marked any issue that happened. You can see that it's 0.89% of our requests were a failure. Hopefully that was an error request I purposely introduced. And we're going to try to drill down in the log points here. Yeah, we can find it here. When we go into log management, log search, and we're using our filters, you can see the error. Participant favicon.ico. So the problem here was actually retrieving the icon that is loading in that HTML page. This may have been from S3, and that's exactly what I did in the configuration. That's what was triggering the error. So now we cover a little bit of everything, and I know that this is all over the place, but we do have little time to explain all these concepts. There is some other knowledge that I can share to you. This one is actually the system API, and let's go back 1 second to our presentation. Here you can see, if we go back to less details, we have an API that is directly connected to the MySQL database, which is actually Aurora in AWS. If we go here, you can actually see, and this is for every application in Mule 3 by default. I think in Mule 4 is when you configure the console to appear. This is the console menu. So from here, you can see all the requests you can make to that API. In this case, I can actually delete the participants. I can actually populate. This is especially used for QA. For QA, populates the database with fake participants so that I can test before the event that everything is running smoothly. Now I can have this get that will get all the registered participants that have selected the correct answers. So show all participants, not only the winners. In this case, if I leave true, I will show all the participants that register from the session. But you can also put false, so it shows only the winners. This will be only the people that could have been a winner. So we have David, we have Adalberto, we do have Hemcanta, and so forth. And this is, again, by default. It's out of the box when you create these APIs. Now, we're going to close it with a couple more of ideas to give you. This is the Alexa Developers Console, and this is the actual Alexa Developer skill. This is how it looks like. What happens here is that you have to define an invocation. Let's not dive into the details. You heard me saying open MuleSoft contest winner, right? That is a command that I define here. It's the invocation. And then you need to define what is actually going to happen once you evoke that command. And that you have to define it in the JSON editor. You can add some of the commands, how to trigger the commands that you want. Who has won the contest, who has won, get the winner, and so forth. Some other ways of calling the same thing. Now, there's other logic here that is the actual endpoint. What happens is Alexa communicates to that experience API. It sends a JSON to that experience API because the Alexa skill is translated everything for you. It's doing the Alexa app will make that request to the Alexa skill and will translate your voice into text and send that JSON through. That JSON will go to our Alexa Lambda. In this case, I wanted to test with something different, and I created a Lambda function with some Node.js code that is basically making the call to the process API. You can see here how it makes the call to the process API. That is why I was showing you in this diagram and doing with the Alexa app, because that's the implementation I did to make use of different technologies. Now, from the Alexa skill that translates my voice to JSON, it sends to the experience API that is actually a Lambda function, and it calls the process API, and then it does the rest of the behaviors. I know I'm conscious of time, and I will try to close it up. Just a couple more of ideas that I wanted to share with you. Let's see if we can find it here. We already covered this one. We're covering any-point monitoring as well. Visualizer. There is something that I didn't mention, and it's extremely important when you're working with MuleSoft, whether as a customer or as a partner. In this case, you see this visualizer, you see the experience, the process API, this pro contest, and the pro notification. Let's actually zoom in so that you can see it properly. This is our Alexa skill or our browser. You have the experience contest API, the pro contest, and the pro notification that goes and talks directly with our system, backend system, that in case is Twitter. And you have the system API, that is the Amazon API that we created for the Amazon database, that is Aurora/MySQL. There is a very important caveat here, and I was expecting more people to actually get an error because I purposely make in the application, in the experience application, I put 2 requests. One was synchronous and one was asynchronous. You will first make an asynchronous request when you submit that form, and that will make sure that I receive your form and that you can be an effective winner. A second request was synchronous and was to another server that was going to retrieve, was going to register you in another event. The idea here is that it happened last week and it has happened with 2 or 3 customers during the last 6 months, that you need to think about architectural patterns and when you need to bring asynchronous. In this case, imagine that we have 500 participants. Do you really want to make an asynchronous request, HTTP request from contest to contest experience API to contest process API to contest system API, register in the database, return it here, return it here, and return it here? The response is no. You want to have something has a RabbitMQ. You want to have any point MQ, anything in the middle that creates that asynchronous pattern, and then you can register all those participants in the queue, and then you can process it at your own time with asynchronous calls, maybe, because you don't need to go through the whole experience end-to-end and return a response that it was already registered. As long as you put the participant in the queue, you know that you will be able to register it later. Of course, there's different implementations that you can make here, but this is an example on when you shouldn't build synchronous APIs. In this case, we are using an asynchronous API, and I had to add the scope on the HTTP requester here, async, so that you can make the request asynchronous and you don't get the error back that some of you had, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So with that, we conclude why would you like to have API-led, how you can present it to other people in your organization or other developers, and the idea behind how to make your own contest app demo. I'm planning to do a source code release so that you can use it, but it's not closed yet. I'm expecting to do it in the first quarter of the next year. This is an example of one of our customers that actually took it to the next level, and it was a Welsh water company based here in UK. And it was different things. Alexa, tell me about my water consumption of water. Alexa, do I use less water than my neighbor or neighbors? This was an innovation lab, so it's not a real implementation. It was developers testing their ideas. So Alexa, what's new in the water world? And you will get news about what is going on with the charities that Welsh Water is supporting all around the globe. Or even in UK, there was a Storm Dennis and Storm Ciara a couple of months ago. And if you want updates on that, you can ask your Alexa. This is just an example. Okay, Sreni, thank you for highlighting that the hackathon also has some entries with the Alexa integration. That is very important. For any of you that is interested in code, you can see all the code from the hackathon. Actually, let me share it with you. From the hackathon submissions, code, oh, well, I cannot retrieve the now, but there is a page with all the hackathon submissions, and you can see the source code. You should be able to find it from the news of winners. And give me 1 second, please. Let me get that for you, because plenty of you will be interested in seeing actual code. Excellent is this one. So here you can see the code of the source code of the winner. You can find it there with the implementation, with the video. We're talking about not only Peter, but I wanted the hackathon results, and you can find them all here. In that link, you will be able to find all the submissions from the hackathon, the proud owners of the assets, and the code that is available in different repositories. Now, some more ideas for the future. If you want to extend this demo, you can think about Einstein AI. That one is from Salesforce. You do have the Einstein Vision for pattern recognitions and Einstein Language to translate, just like we did with Alexa. Then you have Affectiva for sentiment recognition, We're OS by Google in case you want to add anything related to your steps. Maybe you want an experience API that will retrieve, you talk with Alexa and retrieves how many steps you have registered in Google in the last week, to say one. Maybe you want to take it to Stripe for testing with PayPal, or create your own bot. These are some of the steps that you can follow to do that. It's just recapping on the architecture. And with that, we're going to close the session. You will have these slides as with the ones presented by Arno, and there will be a recording. Again, thank you for joining.